Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bethany Eigel. I'm the Associate Specialist in the Learning and Organizational Development Unit with Virginia Cooperative Extension. Welcome to day 4 of our 2026 Virtual Summer School Series, Retention Through the Employee Cycle. Virtual Summer School is co-hosted annually by the Southern Region Program Leaders Network, Program and Staff Development Committee, and the National Association of Extension Program and Staff Development Professionals. For this series, you'll notice we're using the Zoom Q&A feature so that you can post any questions for our presenters in the Q&A box throughout our session. At the end of the session, we can address as many questions as possible. And thanks to our facilitators with the Q&A in the chat today, that's Cheryl Newberry from Oklahoma State University and Hannah Edwards from Texas A&M University. Today's session is a two-parter focused on the topic of developing mid-managers. We've got our first presentation, which is entitled Strengths at the Center, using Clifton Strengths to support faculty growth and retention. Our presenter is Lisa Caslin, the Professional Development Coordinator at the University of Nebraska Extension. Welcome, Lisa, and thank you for presenting today. I'll turn the mic over to you now.
So Bethany said, centering on your strengths. I called it strengths at the center. We're just going to work with thinking about strengths as individuals. And I thought a lot about the idea of faculty growth and retention as we talk about this week and all of the topics that we're covering. And while the primary focus today we've said has been on what that middle career, middle managers, mid-career type people, anymore, what does that mean, right? In my 30 years of extension, mid-career meant 15 years at least. And now I think they're saying, 5 years, 3 to 5 years is where we're landing on mid-career because people aren't going to stick around as long as they used to. So the dynamics are changing. And so I think what I hope to share today kind of comes from all the angles of throughout your career, whether you're mid-career or early career or late career, strengths matter. And that's really the piece. And so a little bit about retention. You've maybe heard about it already this week. Just some things that I think are important to think about. There's a lot of words on that screen, but I just wanted to give you some thoughts that the current statistic is 51% of employees are actively looking, are actively thinking about other opportunities, which then to me says that if I'm actively looking for something else, how engaged am I in the current work, right? So all of these statistics, much of this comes from Gallup research, and I'm going to focus on Gallup a lot today for the purposes of this conversation. But I think that's an interesting dynamic for us to think about, and that 42% of that turnover is preventable. Lots of people said that they don't have conversations before they leave about leaving, right? And so if we are in this mid-career, middle management type role, what opportunities do we have to talk to our employees about how things are going to potentially prevent turnover? Because we know replacement costs are high. This isn't just extension, this is industry, company, higher education wide, but you can see some of the numbers there. And it's not cheap. And so what do we need to be thinking about as organizations? And one of them goes right to the heart of today's conversation, is really investing in manager training and leadership development. We need our supervisors, our managers, those that are leading offices and other staff in our organization to be able to do that to the best of their ability, because relationships matter. We all know that connection matters. And we also know that most people leave their role because of their manager. That's also another statistic. And so how do we invest the training and growth of our middle managers and our mid-career level faculty who are the leaders in our organization oftentimes, right? So how do we also think about strengthening their career development path and the growth pathways? I think that's something I often hear is, what's my next opportunity in extension look like if I don't get another degree? And so how are we providing opportunities that look like their advancement or feel like their advancement because there's something new for people? As we all know, in the last 5 to 6 years, This idea of around addressing health, family, and compliance concerns in a proactive way, being receptive to people with flexibility, the things that they need. Many of you are doing things like exit and stay interviews, which are important. That whole remote hybrid work policy thing is comes up again and again and is not going away. Research shows again that that's here to stay, and we need to continue to consider what that means for extension work. And then, as we all know, another challenge we all have, especially with current budgets in higher education, is this compensation. And what does that look like? So, a lot of the findings suggest that retention is not just about pay, which I think is good for us in extension, right, in higher education, especially in times of budgets, because that's been hard, and many of us don't have the final control over any of that. But it is about creating supportive, developmental focused workplaces that are aware of what people need and that they address not just the organizational needs, but yet we consider what individual needs people have. And that's really where I'm going to head with a lot of this conversation. I'd like to introduce you to Donald Clifton. Dr. Clifton was a psychologist and actually a professor at the University of Nebraska. So this is something we are proud to be able to say that Clifton Strengths, started at the University of Nebraska more than 60 years ago. And it was this idea that what would happen if we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what's wrong. And prior to that time, a lot of the work, training and development also was, what are you not good at? What are the interventions we need to do to fix you, to help you? Instead of saying, what are you already good at? And how do we lean into that? And that's really where Strengths was born. And if you think about Strengths as a foundation to working with faculty and staff, think about it for yourself, right? We know that if we focus on the things we're good at already and lean into those even more, there is enhanced performance. When employees work in roles that align with their strengths, they're more likely to excel and contribute effectively to the organization. Seems obvious, and yet we all have parts of our job we don't necessarily love to do, right? And so, how do I take that part of my job that I'm not as good at or that I don't like as much and find a way to lean into a strength that helps me enjoy that better? Or to get better at delegating it to someone who does like it or someone who's better at it. Because we know that when we focus on employee strengths, there's improvements in performance metrics, profit, and productivity. And so as an organization for us, that is also very meaningful. Even though we're not about the bottom line necessarily, that looks different for us. It's still, productivity still matters. It also strengthens a foundation, increases engagement. And that is another statistic. I think that the number shows that actually employee engagement went slightly back up this from last year. It was at an all-time low. Since Gallup's been recording employee engagement, last year it was the lowest it's ever been. Employees in the workforce being engaged in their job. Most general employees went slightly back up. The biggest decrease was in managers and supervisors, who their engagement went down even farther this year. And we obviously want, if employees are using their strengths regularly, you're going to be more engaged and energized at work because you're working in something that you're stronger at, right? So higher job satisfaction and lower turnover rates are a part of that. We're all looking to build a positive work culture. That is hard in today's world. It's hard in extension, being geographically dispersed in our states, across the state. The vast amount of work that we do in this way instead of getting together face to face. But a workplace that values and develops employee strengths also fosters a positive culture. I think that's an obvious result. And so continuing to have people think about what they're good at and do their work surrounding their strengths helps our work culture. The effective team dynamics are obviously at play. If I'm on this team and you let me work in areas on the team in which I have my strengths, I'm going to be a better contributor to the team. The team's going to be more successful. And then really piggybacking off of yesterday's topic around burnout, when we work in our strengths, we can help mitigate burnout. It is one way where individuals that get engaged in their skills and interests and in things that they're good at, spending time leaning into their strengths, are less likely to get burned out. And so, what does it look like on how to use your strengths at work? And I'm kind of setting the stage to help talk about our approach in Nebraska, but I think it's things that we all can think about as we think about strengths from a holistic view. I'm not talking just about Gallup strengths. I'm going to focus in on our work on Gallup strengths, but there are a lot of strengths assessments out there. And if I were to ask everyone right now to put something in the chat that they feel they're good at, right? Or a strength that you have, and then to think about how you could use that at work. I'm sure you all could do that. Um, but do we do it regular enough to make a difference in our everyday work? Do we think about it regularly enough to have it be fulfill who we are and how we go about doing our jobs every day? And so it starts with first identifying and understanding your strengths. And you can do that in a number of ways. There are a number of assessment tools out there in which you can take an assessment to have it help you determine those strengths. I think it's also just a lot of personal reflection that could be done to think about what is it that I'm good at? What do I enjoy? And they usually correlate. That's the point, right? So, what do I enjoy doing and why? And so, what am I good at that I want to spend more time being able to do that or to lean into that to do my job. And so you first got to know, and you first got to take the time to sit back and identify it so it can help you as you move forward. Then it becomes this building strength awareness, and that could be more reflective practice. That could be through training or coaching, using a coach to help you flesh that out, going to training around the specific strengths assessment that you took. But it's really becoming more skilled. And awareness is the foundation for intentional use. We can know a lot of things. It's only when we do something about them that it matters. All right. I can attend a lot of training and I can now know about that and that and that. But if I don't do anything with it, if I don't use it, and once again, we can all identify our strengths. I could once again ask you, put them in the chat right now. What do you do about it? What do you do with them? How does that play out every day? And so building the awareness and then applying those strengths to work tasks every day. And you're going to hear me say the words because it is the Gallup language in which I was trained to lean into them, identify them. We call it naming them, claiming them, and aiming them, right? So I name my strength and then I claim it, which means I build some awareness and I in some cases even accept it as a strength because often we're like, where some of us are still pretty humble and say, oh, I'm not really that great at that. But if it's been identified as a talent and a strength, right? I'm gonna claim it as my strength, and then I'm gonna aim it. And I'm gonna aim it to apply it to the work that I do every day so that the work becomes more enjoyable, that I get more engaged, all of the things. And then how does after I apply it, does it become embedded? That it's not just about the one-off saying, hey, on this team, my strength is communication, so I'll be in charge of that this day, this time. But what does that look like for me ongoing? And as I start to think now about how we use this with employees, how we use this with middle managers, if we want our managers and supervisors to be able to do this with others, they have to be good at it themselves. And I think that's no matter what topic we've talked about all week and other things that you learn, we have to help our supervisors reflect, apply, and use first before they can help others. And so spending time doing that takes time. And the ask that much of our organization is about modeling, right? And what we see others do, how we see others use these things in their work life. And then because I see someone else doing it well, I think, oh, that is possible and I can do that. And so that starts with our supervisors and managers. And then the final piece, as always, in extension fashion, is to measure it and refine it and make sure that it's working well for you. And so kind of taking this look at what has been working for me, what do I need to change, and feeling good about the choices you've made around using your strengths in your daily work. And whether that is just picking a couple strengths whether it's looking at a longer list. You can go about it in a number of ways. So let's dig deeper into what that could be. There's a lot of bullets here on why strengths matters. I pulled a variety of research from a variety of places. I think this is key because often people are like, "Oh, if I know I'm good at it already, why would I spend more time on it? Like I have other needs." But I do believe it's important that we spend more time on the things we're good at because it is easier, right? It is supposed to feel less stressful than having to learn a skill that is completely new. So Gallup's, revealed that people that lean into their strengths daily are more likely to feel energized, well rested, happy, respected, and proud. Wow. If we could all just say that's how I'm feeling today, right? I'm feeling energized, well rested, respected, and proud. Wouldn't that be a day? It's possible, right? So some of these are pretty interesting because they're pretty basic things, but I think they're fun to see. 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. That's a big number. You're sharing your natural talents and gifts with the world. When you're leaning into your strengths, you are being you, right? Be who you want to be, which I hope for many of you is to be as most comfortable in your work, and leaning into strengths allows that. The state of flow, where things are timeless and I'm accomplishing a lot. When we're in flow, it's because things are easy and natural. And so that is what strengths allow us to do. 3 times more likely to report an excellent quality of life. Increases well-being and energy. There's a ripple effect. And it goes back to this modeling that I talked about in extension. When we see others doing something that's working and we figure out how to do that, think about how that modeling in this environment really ripples throughout the whole organization. That's what culture is. It starts with one person and it ripples out. And so we want happy and energized individuals in the organization because that lends itself to other happy and energized individuals. It truly does. Because we know when we're with the negative person who says, "Oh, I have to do this budget report again," or "I have to go talk to the supervisors and or the commissioners, and I absolutely hate that part of my job," and they get really down and out on that piece, then we all kind of feel that way. So if we can get people using their strengths and find out what is it that you're good at that might make that supervisor meeting more enjoyable for you, right? Then we can all become more happy and energized. 7.8% more productive. That number seems small to me when we say we're going to be 6 times more engaged at work. I think we should be way more productive then too, but it is a positive number. 86% more successful than don't, which is managers who focus on employee strengths. So here every once in a while, some of these relate directly to that manager role again. And what you can do as a manager, supervisor, mid-career professional to be a model for others is that to use others' strengths to your benefit with them, right? And focus on their strengths and acknowledge their strengths. And when you're the leader of a team, to say, "Hey, let's talk about what everybody's strengths are and how we should assign roles in the team," and not just ignore the fact. I think often we all know we bring strengths to the table, and then we say, "Oh, okay, let's go on to the next thing," and we just leave it at that, versus being really strategic about how we assign roles or how we ask people to do things. And there's a few more here. Managers who understand their own strengths are better equipped to recognize them in others. Just like I said, it starts with each one of us individually, no matter where we're at in the system, using it, knowing it, being it, living it, right? Then I'm better able to do that with others. And top performing managers reward strength over seniority, resulting in better decisions. And I think this is also important for us as we look at ways to recognize in extension. We know that's getting harder. The 1 year big award ceremony is good, and yet a lot of people get left out in that. So how are we really highlighting people throughout the year for their strengths, giving them opportunities based on their strengths, calling it out when they do things that they're good at that result in their strengths being utilized. I think lots of other little ways to do that. When we know our strengths, we feel like we're more in control over our future. When employees know their strengths, they know what they do best, right? That's the correlation there. And then they report higher engagement, retention, benefits to the organization. Kind of some of these become kind of repetitive, but I think they make the point, why should we focus on strengths? Because it fosters a growth mindset, manage blind spots. 3 in 4 adults are not using their strengths daily. That was the 2012 report. That's pretty old. I looked for some more recent data to see what that is now, and I couldn't find an updated study that was the same. But I think that's interesting because what it's saying here is that they're not using their strengths daily. It doesn't say they don't know them. It's just saying they're not using them. And so, how do we help people think about how to better use them? Less stress, and boost performance. So I think the why, you can see why the why matters. Plenty of bullets. There was more pages of why I could have came up with to help convince us. And I think we're at a point now of understanding why it's important. And just know that once again, there are lots of tools out there. Some of the tools, and you can say strengths are also connected to personality, and yet right there the research shows a bit of a difference, a bit of the same. All right, I think that a lot of it could be related, and that's okay, because how do you lean into that then? Still, the reason we chose Clifton Strengths out of the other choices that are popular, and DISC was also mentioned, a lot of people really do put that into more of a personality assessment. But Gallup Strengths is the strongest research-based one we could find. It focuses on what you do best naturally and how to leverage that. Not everything that you're good at is a strength. They call it a talent. Only with investment of time and energy does it become a strength. And I think that's also an important component. We have lots of talents. They're not strengths until we use them as strengths, till we invest the time and energy to make them a strength. Just because my top score is communication, I can talk a lot. That's not the problem. Do I invest my time and energy into making sure my communication is the strongest it can be, the clearest it can be, the most effective when I do get in front of a group to talk? Because it's very easy just to talk, right? So that strength for me, it takes some work. And then, Clifton Strengths really excels when the goal is to leverage these natural talents and to build them in. And a lot of groups and organizations pair Clifton Strengths with other things. It really is just more of a reinforcement that this is who you are. And so the difference for Clifton, for us, was the opportunity to really dig into it. And so I want to go a little bit farther now into how we use it. Once again, not right or wrong. This is what we're doing, and we could do better. I'm here to say that when I prepared this session, I wanted to part of my thought was, man, there's so much more we could be doing and should be doing. We are not perfect at this, but we are trying to get better about how to use strengths. And so a collective list of our approach, things that are happening pretty regularly. All of our middle managers, for the most part, our dean's office, our extension leadership team, our supervisors, our program leaders are all certified Gallup coaches. So that is a pretty intensive training. It's a pretty costly training that we invested money in at the time. It also was, once again, to allow them to be able to coach others on their programming teams, those that they supervise, each other, and to be fully vested into the program as coaches. That does require a testing out to become certified, which I thought was pretty interesting and intense. And many of you on the call probably are coaches, and you know that. And then after a certain amount of time, you have to retest. So it's not like you're just a coach forever and you don't have to keep your skills up. It really does ask you to stay honed in on the material and be able to be the best coach that you can be. And Gallup, once you're in, like I think I get 35 emails a day. If anybody sends too many emails, it's Gallup. But there's so many opportunities to learn more, to gain more information, more resources, all the things. So if it's something that you're interested in, just know Gallup is gonna provide you support. Every single one of our employees, whether you're county-based, if you have an extension appointment, support staff through specialists, you get a code to take an assessment within the first month of your job. Honestly, within the first couple weeks of your job. That is also a commitment that we have made, that every single person from the support staff in a county office to the specialist on campus, takes the assessment, and we provide the all 34 report, which is a more expensive report than just getting your top five. But it gives people all 34 of the themes in your order of scoring. The report itself is intensive with a lot of information to help faculty and staff. Once again, the piece there is there's a lot there for people to use if they choose to. And we can only hold hands so much with the number of faculty and staff we have. And so they do get a pretty strong opportunity put in front of them with access to the website and the material and the report, as well as all the things that our coaches provide and other things that we do, which include that in that first year, three kind of first year coaching conversations spread out throughout your first year of coming onto the job to help you think about how your strengths can help you in your extension job. And then one-on-one coaching, team coaching. We do name, claim, and aim conversations with all faculty and staff when appropriate. These grids, I'll show you what they look like in just a second. We do training, coaching, monthly conversations. Our programming staff meet monthly with their supervisors. Another thing Gallup recommends highly. Not all the conversations are necessarily about strengths, but can lend themselves to things that matter around strengths, well-being, employee engagement, all of the things that we've already talked about. So a couple of resources just to show you if you end up using Gallup Strengths. This is the front page of the all 34 report. This happens to be mine. And you get all 34. You get to see where they land, along with many, many more pages that highlight those top five and what those mean to you. The resource page has every coaching guide you'd ever want. This one is a discussion around investing in your strengths. And so as people are thinking about how to use them and what are my five most important tasks at work and which one of my themes would help me do this better, the access to resources through Gallup is immense, and gives you a lot of avenues for how to pursue using the material. And then all kinds of plans. And here's the one that I mentioned around naming, claiming, and aiming your themes. And once as a coach, even not as a coach, you have access to many of the pieces. So let's say you take your assessment, there's a lot of things you have access to. And then once you are a coach, there's even more resources. This is what I call a team grid. So we do grids for offices. We do grids for programming teams where you can see names would be off to the left over there, and you can see where people's top five are. That's usually what you highlight the most when you work with teams, is the top five. You can see that those 34 themes break down into four kind of strategic over larger themes. And so you spend time talking about that. There's a program within the system that allows you to print off for people using their top five reports like this that show you if you're strategic, what do you bring? What can you contribute? This is what you need from others. There's just endless amounts of reports that you can print out for people once you have their top five, which this is the fun stuff right here that people love to see and then to share with others. So we do spend quite a bit of time in offices and teams having them share this and get to know each other. It's another really great way to deepen relationships when you start talking about your strengths, what matters to you, how you can use that in your work. I think there are lots of other things that we can do. And if you others want to share in the chat, and I'm going to keep rolling in lieu of time, but I think others are doing lots of things with strengths, whether it's Gallup or other things. Share those in the chat for others to see as we're going along through this session and the next. And then other ideas for what you could do. Things that I thought about during this conversation is doing some more strengths-based career check-ins throughout people's career at certain stages, maybe. Maybe there's a 5-year conversation or a 3-year conversation. It definitely could use strengths and retention risk conversations, mid-career resets. I've always wanted to do like a legacy kind of workshop on what legacy do you want to leave in extension. I think strengths could help people think about that. We talked about strengths coaching to prevent burnout. And then continued focus on monthly supervisors using questions at check-in times each month that would continue to bring this conversation to the forefront. If we want to be a strengths-based organization, we really have to put it out there more often, and have it feel like it's ongoing. And I think that's been the hardest part for us, is it kind of can go away. Cheryl's going to put in the chat a link to this resource page, which is where, if you are interested, you can buy codes online. If you want to, you can buy an individual code just for yourself. If you want to buy multiple codes, Gallup does do an educational discount on codes. The information to become a certified coach and the online portal access and online training opportunities all can be accessed, or find more information from this page if Gallup is something you're interested in. Once again, that was our choice, for a number of reasons, but I really am supportive today of just the idea that we focus on strengths. But if you want to learn more, here's the opportunity that's coming for you. If you haven't heard, at our annual conference in November, we're going to be in Omaha, the home of Clifton Strengths, and we're going to go to the Gallup headquarters that is in Nebraska. And on the pre-conference is going to be around Gallup's State of the Global Workplace. I think Cheryl also has sent you a link to that report for this year. Some of my statistics early came from that. Someone's going to be speaking to us about those findings around, but also around employee engagement, burnout, retention, kind of a lot of the things that we've talked about this week we're going to hear from Gallup's research group on that on Tuesday afternoon, and do some activities related to what does this mean for extension at the pre-conference. And then on Wednesday morning, we're actually going to go to Gallup. We're going to bus over, it's like a 7-minute drive from the hotel, not far, for a 4-hour facilitated, led by Gallup experience, where you will get to take you will get a code if you register for the conference to take the assessment, to get all 34 report. Even if you've taken it before, we're going to let you take it again. It's just easier if they have everyone's results in order to talk about them. That will come with a variety of resources from them, as well as things we're considering for the conference. And we'd love to have you join us to learn more if Gallup Strengths is something that sparks an interest for you. So thank you for letting me share something I'm super excited about, and something that we use but could do better. And I'll take questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for all of that wonderful information. We are going to roll forward, and I would love to introduce our second presentation with our 3 presenters today, which is entitled Leading from the Middle, a comprehensive model for onboarding and developing extension leaders. 2 of our speakers, Amelia Mitchell and Callie Nelson, serve as assistant directors for field operations with Alabama Cooperative Extension, and they are joined by Dr. Rochelle Sapp, who is a principal consultant with Rochelle Sapp Consulting. So welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amelia Mitchell, and as she said, I'm the Assistant Director for Field Operations with Alabama Extension, and I'm joined by my colleagues Rochelle and Callie Nelson today. And today we want to share something with you that we're piloting here in Alabama that we're calling Leading from the Middle. It's a comprehensive model for onboarding and developing our extension leaders. And so we'll share with you, just to give you a little background as to how we got here. This came about because our extension director, Dr. Eve Brantley, identified a leadership development need, and began pulling together or building an approach to better support our middle managers in Alabama. And so what we were finding was that as our leaders were walking into increasingly complex roles, we wanted to make sure that we had a model where we could set them up for success as they were transitioning into these new roles. And so we started first with the ADFOs. And so some of y'all may refer to them as regional directors or district directors in your regions or in your states. But we decided the middle managers that we'd start with would be the ADFOs. So over the next several minutes, we're going to share the leadership need that prompted this work, the framework that we came up with, and how we're thinking about applying these concepts a little bit more broadly across the state. or across extension. And so again, I won't go into a whole lot of detail about our presenters, but I will tell you again, just some kind of background or context as how we got here. I recently participated in Lead 21. So the last Lead 21 class I went through, and it was a great opportunity. And I always tell people, I got a lot of really good nuggets as I was going through that leadership development program, but I also formed some really, really strong relationships with some of our peers and colleagues across other states, but also with the facilitator and with Rochelle Sapp. And so Rochelle's challenged me really to think differently about leadership development, particularly about how we prepare our leaders to navigate the challenges, the expectations, and transitions that come with leadership. And so fast forward several months after that experience, our organization began preparing to hire what we call a new ADFO for one of our regions that was facing some significant challenges. And so like many other organizations, we recommended that it's going to take more than just hiring a great leader, but long-term success would depend on what happened next. And so as we continued to reflect on the challenge that we had before us, it became increasingly clear that it would take more than just one workshop, more than one mentor, more than one coach that could adequately prepare somebody for stepping into that regional leadership role because of the complexities of that role. And so we decided we needed a more intentional and connected approach, one that provided leaders with support, resources, and relationships that they needed in order to be successful. And so as we, continued to dive even a little bit more deeper, we wondered, could the principles that we were learning, so some of the key takeaways from this pilot, extend far beyond our ADFO role, our middle managers? And so we began looking at how we could integrate some of these leadership principles into our onboarding and development of our county extension directors. And so that's where my counterpart and colleague, Callie Nelson, will come in. She will tie some of that together for us and show how we can use some of the lessons learned, some of the key takeaways, and use those to support our onboarding process for our county extension directors. So now that we've shared the story behind our work, we want to provide you with some context more so about the approach and where we're going with it today. And so we're going to start first by looking at the role of the middle managers in extension and why intentional support is so important. And then from there, we're going to get Rochelle to walk us through the framework and the key elements of the pilot approach that we came up with in Alabama. And of course, Callie will end us off talking about the scalability and how these concepts can extend beyond the ADFO role. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself there. So why does middle manager development matter so much in extension? And so, whether your organizations call them regional directors, district directors, or as we do ADFOs, we know that these positions play a unique role in extension. They directly influence employee engagement, program delivery and quality, and as well as organizational culture across our extension systems. And so a lack of a really structured development can lead to inconsistency in our decision making, decision fatigue, and could reduce our leadership confidence. And so we'll explore some of the benefits that we started to look at and how we came to this comprehensive system level development approach that we're going to use to strengthen our leaders in extension. And so investing in middle managers really strengthens extension as a whole. And so here in this slide, we looked at, what happens if we don't put forth intentional effort to support our leaders? And then what are some of the benefits if we do that? And so looking at without intentional support, a lot of times managers stepping into these roles learn through trial and error. However, if we intentionally support them in their roles, expectations are clear. Sometimes without good support, there's some role uncertainty. And so with this support, we're looking at how we can have more confident leaders. And so also looking at inconsistent approaches to leadership as far as without intentional report And of course, the greater benefit there is stronger alignment across the extension organization. So we're really looking at the biggest impact being supported leaders create stronger teams, and then stronger teams create stronger extension systems. So more of that ripple effect that Lisa was talking about a little bit earlier. So I'm going to pass things off to Rochelle to kind of walk us through the pilot leadership development model that we're working on.
Yeah, thanks, Amelia. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about what we've been doing. This, again, as Amelia said, this has really been a pilot. The first time we're trying this and kind of bringing some of my experiences in leadership development, but also background in extension since I was with the University of Georgia Extension for 13 years, and have been learning a lot about Alabama's extension system over the last really probably 12 months since I've moved to Alabama more recently, but not working for them. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Amelia. So when Eve and Amelia reached out to me about what can we do, what are the possibilities, and we really just started exploring kind of what's the situation, and then started thinking about what are all the different ways that we can support a new ADFO or regional director. I used to call them district directors because of my, and I still do occasionally. Amelia shakes her head at me, I think sometimes. But really looking at what are kind of all the things that we might be able to do to support somebody within a reasonable budget as well, if we're being honest, about how can we do this. And so we kind of use three approaches, and I'll talk about each of these as we go through the next slide. But the first is around kind of that connection between mentoring, coaching, and regional training, and recognizing that it's going to take all of those things. Oh, you can go back to the next slide. I'll just hit them high level really quickly. And then thinking about kind of that continuous development of how they can apply things, and getting that kind of real-time coaching and feedback as they're doing things. And then recognizing that it really isn't just one person's job to onboard somebody, to coach somebody, that it really does take a number of people. So often we will assign a mentor to somebody. You know, Amelia might be the ADFO mentor for this new person that was hired. Or when I was working in Georgia, we would assign a couple of mentors, which is great. But so often that's kind of all we do is we assign one person to be their go-to. And it really does take more of a shared responsibility model to be successful. So, okay, now you can go to the next slide. So the first thing that we really thought about was, yes, I am an experienced leadership development professional, now do my own consulting work, and I think I do pretty good, but it is not just one person's job, nor am I living within the organization and working within kind of the challenges. And so one of the things that Eve, Amelia, and I talked about early on was how can we really build a mentor team so that it's not just an external coach that's providing support. And this is something that I pull from kind of the Lead 21 experience of really that peer-to-peer coaching and people from within the organization, but also people that sit in different roles. And so specifically, we identified additional peer ADFOs, which that was Amelia in this case. And then we also had our associate, they were basically the program leaders that are in charge of ag, 4-H, family and consumer sciences, or human sciences and extension, kind of whatever that role looks like. But one or two of those individuals, as well as the extension director, sat on that group, and then myself, as well as the new person. And so we would do monthly check-ins. And so we started that first check-in with really establishing the roles, kind of what are the roles of the mentors? What does the new ADFO, the new district director, regional director really want to get out of those sessions whenever we would come together? And really what might the mentors feel like they can actually contribute to that person's growth and development. And a lot of those looked like the new person kind of giving some updates of things that they're working on, things that they wanted to try in their region, but then really allowing for others to provide kind of that experience or perspective, and be able to ask questions of the individual, as well as the new person that was stepping into this role, for them to be able to ask questions of others. And a lot of times what it led to is kind of the model of kind of that supported leader leads to supported teams, leads to supported, successful systems. A lot of times it led to some conversations that were much broader than just that individual or even the region, but kind of bringing light to, these are conversations that we need to be having as a broader team, to address issues that are not just specific to this individual, that they're things that we as a system need to be supporting. So that was kind of the first step that we did. You can go to the next slide. And then this is where I got to really do a lot of things that I love doing and working with the ADFO, specifically more one-on-one. We've been doing biweekly check-in sessions. They're about an hour every 2 weeks. And really, again, just like any coaching, it's about her and whatever is most important to her in that moment. And so sometimes we were talking about dealing with difficult employees. Sometimes we were talking about getting ready for the CED meeting and really thinking about the agenda and being intentional about the agenda. I love my extension professionals, but sometimes we like to cram way too much into agendas. And so a lot of times I was like, I think that might be too much. What can we be really intentional about? How do we create engagement in those meetings so that's not just throwing lots of information? Because we also like to do that to our extension employees. We like to throw a lot of information at them. But how can we really create conversations? And so that's what a lot of the focus was, which is whatever was most important to her over those 2 weeks. And then she also had the ability to reach out via text or email. Part of that was just because we still had funds that we could put into the budget. Didn't end up doing a lot of that up to this point, but I wanted it to be a possibility so that if something was in the moment and she needed a question, she could also call me, of course. But just having that ability to know that I was available, within reason. Please don't call me at 9 o'clock at night when I'm putting my kids to bed, but otherwise very available to have that real-time coaching. And to be accessible for her when sometimes you just need something that's external to the organization to bounce an idea off of, to talk through something, or just to get some outside perspective. Okay, next slide. And then the last piece that we're still in progress, this is still in the works, still happening, haven't done it yet, is some strengthening of the regional leadership capacity. So this specific region has had quite a bit of turnover for their ADFO. And so we also recognize to set the individual up for success, we really needed to think about what are some things that we can do for the region, whether they've had the turnover or not, but specifically because they had turnover, we really wanted to be intentional about that. And so the goal and what we've got it on the books now, is I'm going to actually go in, work with the person, the ADFO specifically, about what does she really want to do at one of her quarterly meetings, which includes all of her CEDs. Agents are invited as well as some of the program leaders will also be there. They probably won't participate in the stuff that we're doing, but they will be there as a part of that. And so we're kind of thinking about what are the needs of the region, what are the leaders within the organization need within that region, and how can we really do some team development, and really building off some conversations that we had last December, I believe. Amelia actually had me come in and do some work with this region as well. And so I think a lot of what we're going to be doing with them, she has been very intentional about focusing on some of the organizational values that the organization has. And so we've specifically picked the one around accountability. And so we're going to be having some conversations around what does accountability mean? What does it look like? And to really talk deeply about that as CEDs, but also as agents, and then also from her perspective as well, and really creating some of those conversations. And so, I think as regional directors, as ADFOs, district directors, whatever your titles are, so oftentimes you have to facilitate those conversations for your people, and that can be really great. But sometimes it's helpful to have somebody else come in and do those facilitated conversations. I kind of laugh about the connection to the previous speaker, Lisa, was talking about, that's great. We can learn all about these things about ourselves, but same thing, we can do a lot of training, but we really got to get people to think about it, talk about it, really discuss it, and then apply it in their own work. And that's my hope is with this training for this team. It's not about me coming and giving them more information, but helping them to make sense of their own team and how do they want to work better together as they go back out into the field. Okay, next slide. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Callie.
Well, hello, everybody. And yes, Rochelle, I really need to be in those sessions you conducted. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about is how this has led to the impact, the evaluation, and how we are going to be able to scale this to use it for other leaders within Extension as well. So, Amelia, if you go ahead and go to the next slide. One of the things that we've already identified from this is the impacts and the benefits that it has brought to the organization. There's been enhanced leadership readiness, culture of shared responsibility, improved team performance, and organizational impact. Just to talk about each one of these a little bit, one of the things I really wanted to point out when it comes down to enhanced leadership readiness is that we are seeing an increased confidence level in our leaders to be able to manage personnel, to address decision-making, more decision-making skills. Also looking at aligning regional efforts, because that is the important part here, is that we want to be able to show the impact both in our counties, our region, but also how those will feed state level successes. Culture change and shift is really big in Alabama because we are changing the way we really look at extension. I think that's going to be the case for lots of systems across the nation. You know, our old ways of doing things and what extension was in the past. But how do you really get those staff members, first your leaders, to shift what that culture change is and where it needs to go? So this has actually been able to help foster some mentoring, coaching, and collective learning around those particular topics, but also really reinforce leadership and that shared responsibility. It is no longer what they think of in Alabama as those people at Auburn who gets that responsibility. It becomes the responsibility of everyone. So I think this has been very key there. Another thing that has come about with this is that it's been improved team performance. We have lots of teams, as you guys know, in extension, everything from our county teams to our program teams, to our regional teams. And this model has extended beyond just team communication, but also helped to build morale. We know that's a very important piece in that being able to maintain staff, to staff retention, is just the morale of the organization. And within culture shift to that morale building, overall performance has begun to increase. I'm not going to say it's just gone up, but you know, you can see a calming effect, and people are able to focus on the extension programming and the engagement, and especially for our county extension directors. So also the organizational impact, we're looking at how we are strengthening leadership to enhance quality programs, adaptability, how we're looking at what our state need. And so all of these are able to come about because of this model that is showing how when you really invest in your leaders, that has that trickle down effect. So Amelia, you can go to the next one. So the next thing is that we want to look at how the evaluation, feedback, and continuous loop looks. As we know, with everything, we need to always be evaluating what we're doing. So evaluation, feedback, and continuous improvement has become one of the mantras. We are really looking at that continuous assessment. And Rochelle hit on it really good. You know, you don't want to go into a meeting and just simply be always giving information, but you want to build in that time so that you can effectively monitor how effective something has been and receive regular feedback and evaluation. But evaluation doesn't have to be the end all, because with evaluation, you want to be able to then go to the very last one, which is commitment to improvement. But we want to make sure it's an integrated evaluation process. What we've done with this, as Amelia said, is we've also started to take this and use it as a way to help really build out our other leadership programs. That integrated evaluation process helps us to look at evaluation throughout the process. I'm a big proponent of having a place to pivot and really use change management as we go through any process. And I think that's what we're looking at here, is that as we continue to move forward, how we integrate evaluation and then the commitment to improvement based upon what we are seeing, so that we don't wait, years down the road to change a process if that process is not working. So continuous improvement promotes accountability and a culture that is always learning at all leadership levels. So if you go to the next one, Amelia. So the last piece of this is just how are we going to be able to scale this and adapt this across the roles that other people have in extension, not just with our ADFOs, which those of you who don't know is assistant directors for field operations, or your district directors. This is a really good model, and we've been able to scale it and now use it, believe it or not, pieces of it for our county directors role. We've been able to take what they're doing here, and build it into our county directors, so that everybody that is coming on as a county director is also going through maybe 2 to 3 different things. When you look at it, we have a loop process that's all online for our county directors to start with, but we are doing those weekly check-in or bi-weekly check-ins with them to make sure that they or have someone to reach out to. They know we're coming. We're talking about how to build their capacity. We'll also have mentors that's been assigned. So all three things that you saw with the ADFO role, we've also moved that to our county extension director's role. So with this model, the core elements of mentoring, coaching, capacity building are the core, and we're still building on those elements. It fits a diverse leadership model. And I think for county directors, we bring on 67, we have 67 counties. So there's more of an opportunity, I think, for us to actually model this than any other part of extension, except for our agents, because we have so many. Right now, we are probably getting ready to bring on about 2 to 3 new county directors. And so being able to use this model to see how it fits is really good. The other part of this is that cohesive leadership pipeline, adaptability of the model has also supported building a unified pipeline for fostering leadership growth, not just within our county directors, but also within those people who aspire to be leaders. And that's what, one of our things we're looking at is how do we actually grow our own leaders internally? That is, how do we look at who has a desire to be a leader, who we think would be a great leader, and then start providing some of these experiences to them as well. It's also a customizable framework in that participants are encouraged to customize the model to align with their specific needs. Every region is different, so specific region as well as the organizational structure and need as we move forward. So with that, I think that ends me, Amelia, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Callie. And so just really to wrap this up on a few key takeaways from what we've shared today, just know that it's still a work in process. We've definitely seen some improvements, so some really strong benefits of going in this direction. It's definitely something that we're going to continue to move forward with. We know that leadership development is ongoing. We know that it's a coordinated process, and we've got to be intentional about it. Practical tools, frameworks, and implementation strategies are what we're going to use to empower strengthening our middle managers. We know that they are important to the organization, and the work that they do really ripples out. And really, if we've got stronger ADFOs, we can have stronger county teams and a stronger organization. And the mentoring and the capacity building, of course, investing, coaching, and capacity building is really doing its job at enhancing leadership effectiveness in our organization. So we're happy, we're pleased with where we are. We're open to hearing any questions that you may have about what we're doing, or maybe even comments about some things that we can consider doing as well, or adding to what we're already working through. So we want to thank you for your attention and your time, and then we'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
Thank you all so much. Both presentations were just outstanding, and I certainly gained so much from it. And I'm gonna just start to close us out as people are probably sitting back and processing all this great information that's come their way, to see if we do have any questions. But cannot thank our speakers enough, and all of the attendees for being with us for today's session of Virtual Summer School. I'm just going to do a quick check. I didn't see any questions popping into the Q&A. I think correct. Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, again, thank you so much for the excellent presentations today. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we sure hope to see you back here with us tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.